All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to the podcast, back to Tomboy Official. So I've decided, at least for the time being, I am going to post some little updates onto this channel. Don't know how often, but I'll do something like the daily update, but try to add something helpful into it. I was just thinking, what would be something helpful? Because I know a lot of people try to make money on the side. I've talked about it a lot, but there are a lot of people who might have missed it. Um, Now I want to talk about some things that most people can do. Now, I'm not saying any one of these gigs alone is going to pay your full rent for the month or whatever, but it's very possible to make $200 a day, or sorry, a week. Sorry, let me start over. It's very possible to make with one of them $200 a month. With another one, um, I'd say if you're working pretty hard for like 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd say 5 hours or so, you can make $100 in 5 hours or so. Um, and there's some other stuff I want to talk about along the way, like good reselling tips and stuff like that. Some things might be a little controversial. It's kind of going to depend how you feel about things, but I'll tell you some stuff that I do, that I try, um, that does work for me. Um, so I've talked about this before, but there's this secret shopper, mystery shopper, multiple mystery shopper programs, like Presto Shopper. There's an app for that. There's another place called, I'm only talking about the ones I've done. Um, there's another place called, I think it's RBG or RGB. I haven't done it for a while. Um, it's like realty. I don't know if it's realty or reality. I can't remember the name. Reality based group. I'm literally recording this as I'm waiting for my food to uh, cook in the oven, so I'm not too planned. I was just sitting there and I was like, what can I do for like 30, 40 minutes? So I did a little bit of stuff and then decided to sit down and record a bit. So yeah, mystery shopper gigs are pretty good. Um, so and then the biggest one, well, not the biggest. It just depends. I'll break them down. EPMS, also called Ellis Online, ELLIS Online, um, is another good one. So I would say of these three, my favorite one, because it makes more money at once. So you're not doing little bitty things for little amounts of money. You're doing one big thing for like a chunk of money. So, I mean, it does have little bits and pieces attached to it because sometimes you can't just get it done in one day. Usually it overlaps at least into the second day, or I have to pre plan like maybe 3 days before. So, with EPMS Ellis Online, if you Google that, basically that site allows you to do apartment mystery shopping. And so what you do is you are taking the role of an interested person that would lease an apartment. And it works really good if you actually do want to lease an apartment sometime in the near future, if you're actually looking, because then you don't feel so weird. Like, the reason why it's good for me is because I do plan to move. Now, the cities where I'm taking these gigs at, I don't necessarily plan to move to, but they would potentially be backup options if if things don't work out with what I want initially, they would be backup options. So if I were to want to move to LA, some of these areas would be backup options for me. Um, but do I initially want them now? Am I working towards that directly now? No, but they would be options. And so it's a little easy for me to go into these viewings of apartments. So basically, what you have to do is sign up. It's free to sign up. This whole process is free to you. The only thing it takes is time and transportation. So if you don't have a way to get to and from these apartments on your own, because they're not going to help you with any of that. Like they'll help you with directions, they might help you with like the gate code or like where to park for visitors parking or whatever, but they don't help you with anything else. Um they don't even know that you're not, well, they're not supposed to know that you're not technically going to lease from them. Now you might lease from them if if you're actually actively looking and find a cool spot. You might be able to kill two birds with one stone there. But if you're not really looking, because I mean, I found an apartment complex that had one studio and one bedroom. I think the studio apartment was about 1,300. The one bedroom apartment was about 1,700, and this is in LA, guys. That's relatively cheap. They were both being renovated, so they weren't fully done yet, and they weren't even listed yet, and there were barely any people that even knew about it. And I got my foot in the door. If I wanted to move, I could have put my name on a wait list. I would have been one of the first people at an affordable apartment in Gardena, within, if you know where the golf course is, near El Camino College in Gardena, you can look that up. It's near that area. um Very nice area. It's pretty central. There are some areas near it that people might not consider as nice, but it's nice to live in a little college area, and there's a lot to do right there, a lot of restaurants. It's pretty central. It's near like a bunch of freeways. It's not far from Compton, it's not far from Torrance, it's not that far from the beach. Um it is a little far for my preference, but it's one city over from the beach, so it's like less than a 30-minute drive, really. Unless you're in traffic, it might be about 30 or so minutes. So it's not really that bad. But if I didn't even know that apartments like that existed. Like, it would have been nice. I saw it in the process of renovation, so I don't even know what it would have looked like fully finished. But I got a feel for the place. It was very quiet. It did have secured parking, it had a secured gate. It just seemed, for the price, it was basic. Like, I think they had washers and dryers on site, to my recollection, and there was some, expenses with the parking and that kind of thing, but I believe there was street parking too. I didn't see any issues with that. So yeah, guys, you might want to, if you think you are looking or going to be looking soon, it's a cool gig. The only issue why I would say this is one that you can't really pay your rent with. First of all, you can only put 5 at a time on your schedule. And I think what people want to know the most, I'm a little unorganized here, the least amount of payment I've seen is like $30 to $40 to do one gig in person. I think they're usually $40. I don't recall actually seeing $30, but I'm just putting it in there just in case I did, but I don't really remember that. The least amount of payment is $40. Now you have to do some work. It's not like you just like drive to a random apartment and show up and look at it for 5 seconds and take a picture and then go home. Like, it's a little more involved than that, but I mean, you can book them and do them, and you could easily make $200 a month doing this if you have a city where they post these a lot, or where you're willing to just drive to them. Now, transportation is going to be an expense. You have to consider how much you're paying for transportation. Transportation is going to cost you a little bit, depending where it is. So I can drive to Gardena, to Long Beach, to Santa Monica, to Hollywood, to like more central in LA, um, and also in Orange County. So all those areas have a lot of places that I can view. None of them are right near me. I saw two in Marina Del Rey not that long ago. I saw them back to back because it's not that close to me. and dealing with LAX traffic, it took me almost 50 minutes or so one way just to get there. So I booked one and then I booked the other one right after it. The first one went over on time a little bit. Um, like I was hoping to leave 10 minutes earlier, but I ended up leaving like 5 minutes before time, before I needed to be at the next one, and I needed probably about 12 to 15 minutes to like find it, park, walk, because when I got to the gate I had to like ask for, so I messaged them, told them that I was going to be a little bit late, about 8 minutes according to my map, and then I got there, and then they told me through the gate where to park and everything. And then it took me a while to find the leasing office because there were these weird signs that had these arrows that were like these wide triangles. And so one of the arrows that was pointing to the leasing office, I couldn't tell if it was saying to go straight or to go to the right up the stairs. So I was like walking back and forth for a while, and it happened to be upstairs. And so it took me like I was probably about 15 minutes late to that one. But they're patient. I communicated with them early, and there's nothing I could really do about that. Um, Now there's a company that contracts out for people who are doing the mystery shopping. So they basically have some other clients that are looking for people to do mystery shopping, and then they fulfill the order. So basically, the people looking, these clients that they have, that are looking for mystery shoppers, the clients say what they want, um, what information they want to know. So they want to know maybe like the color schemes. Is there a washer or dryer? Like they give you like a list, and it usually takes. I think the longest one took me maybe 90 minutes to finish the survey at the end online that I had to do, and then the shortest one took me maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm slow at these types of things. Usually when things take me like 25 minutes, most people can do it in like 10 minutes. And so it might be shorter. Like usually when they say those little things where it's like, oh, it should take you only 5 minutes, I'm like, it usually takes me like double the time. So um I don't know how long it might take people shorter, it might take people longer. It just kind of depends. Some of the write ups on the surveys, you have to write like 250 words or something. Some of them tell you that, some of them don't. So sometimes you're kind of like writing a sentence. Like the color scheme was like brown and white, and then they want like 250 words about it. And you're like, okay, so now I have to like write more about that. So it's kind of like things like that. So that's why I'm like, it's not just like you just do it and pop in real quick. And then the step that's at the beginning is scheduling with the leasing professional. You have to like actually call the apartment or the leasing office and schedule. The best ones are the ones where you don't need any kind of recording device, and you schedule in person with one person, but like any leasing professional. Like they don't give you a name. A lot of them say a specific person, and then it'll give you a name like Alma Jones or whatever, and then you have to find Alma Jones. And like if Daniel Smith answers the phone, then you got to make some excuse to call back at a different day or time. So sometimes it can take a little bit to schedule when it's a specific person. Sometimes it's not an issue, sometimes it is. Sometimes you get the right person, sometimes you never get them. I've had all kinds of weird scenarios. Sometimes I got the right person once who scheduled me, and then I ended up meeting with the wrong person in person, but they still gave me like $40 for it. So now the pay deadline to sign up, you can sign up anytime, but the next payment, if you started doing these gigs anytime soon, your next payment wouldn't be until November 22nd of 2023. Um, or whatever weekday is like then. Um, I don't know. I didn't look if it's a weekday or not, but yeah, November. Um, and the submission deadline is November 11th of 2023. Sorry, 7th. What am I saying? Sorry, guys. I was thinking 11, like the number of the month, but November 7th is the deadline. So the 7th of every month is the cutoff for anything you've done. So anything you do before the 7th of the month counts. So if I start on October 25th, I have until I don't know if it's until November 6th or November 7th. If they count like end of the day or start of the day, I don't really remember that, but I know November 7th is the deadline. And whatever is in by that deadline gets counted to your direct deposit paycheck on November 22nd. So you can sign up for it and try it for yourself before then and see if you get any. And if you're in a major city, worst case scenario, you might have to drive a bit. Worst case scenario, you might not get the person on the phone easily, but you're communicating back and forth. If you're like up on a deadline and they're like, you can't, we can't help you, or like we can't find the person, they'll be flexible. Like they've extended deadlines for me up to a month because I couldn't get in touch with somebody, but that was super rare. Usually I get in touch. I've I was assigned once to go to the building, call a place, go to the building. I couldn't get into the gate. I took video of my process of walking around the outside of the gate. They gave me 45 bucks for that one. I think one of them that was supposed to be 40 bucks, I lost $5 on it for, I don't remember what. Maybe I turned it in late, or maybe I didn't um talk to the right leasing agent. I don't remember. There was something that was off, but I'm like, the least money I've ever gotten was $35 for one of these gigs, and they have them up to like $60 because they have like a $40. Oh my gosh, I totally got cut off. My alarm went off for me to put in my pizza, so I've got about 15 minutes. So I hope that makes sense. Basically, for the secret shopper gigs, you're making 40 to $60. The easiest ones, you're basically talking to any leasing agent. Hopefully, it would be really nearby you. Hopefully, they'd have an available time to meet when you're available. It helps when if you're pretty flexible, but a lot of them, show places on weekends too. So you could possibly get like a Saturday or Sunday viewing. That's not uncommon. Um, but you would have to call between about 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. On weekdays. So if you don't have time to do that, it might be a little hard to schedule if you don't have time to do the calls. You're supposed to do about 3 calls per day, up to maybe 5 calls a day. I've never done 5 calls a day and nobody's ever complained at me about it. I've actually done a lot less than 3 calls a lot of times because I'm just not available to do it, or I just totally forget. Like time gets away with me, so I'll do one in the morning and then like do one at 4:30 and one at 5 p.m. or something, and like they need to be 30 minutes apart at least. So you can't just wait till like 4:50 p.m. and just like bang out 3 calls back to back and then be like, oh, they didn't answer, or bang out 5 calls in like the last 10 minutes of the day. They want you calling at times where people would actually be working. And so to give the benefit of the doubt that they're actually going to like answer the phone as if you were like a real person renting, and you're not supposed to blow your cover. So that's why I don't really do the ones that are that you have to do an audio recording. I do audio record with the phone in my pocket. It's bad quality because it's swishing around in my pocket, but they've counted that as like my proof of going, because sometimes I feel like it's a little awkward to ask for a signed business. You're supposed to get like a signed business card or some kind of like a map or piece of paperwork that has their writing on it, um and possibly their signature. Like they none of them do that, and so it's like, just to ask, I think that would probably give away your cover. And so basically um I just audio record. And even though the recording's so bad, like when I'm walking from my car or getting out of my car, I'll say like my name, the location, the time that I'm getting out of my car, the time that the meeting is, the leasing professional I'm going to meet with, say that I'm sticking the phone in my pocket. I'll stick the phone in my pocket. Sometimes I'll take pictures while I'm there. Sometimes they'll have business cards. Sometimes they'll have like a flyer or some kind of map or something. Some of them have folders that have like a whole bunch of information on there. Some of them don't have anything. Some of them don't even work in the office. A lot of them live on site, so they're pretty easy to get in touch with. The latest person for me once, they scheduled me during their lunch break, so I got there and had to wait like 20 minutes for them to get back from lunch. And the only way I knew that is because the maid service that worked, or maintenance service that worked on the site, opened the front, let me in, so I wouldn't have been let in if I hadn't shown up right at that time, because the maintenance service, or whoever the property person was that was doing things, it was a staff member. They had like a polo shirt, and like they opened the gate for me, and there would have been no one to open the gate. And I remember when I was waiting in the waiting room, I was calling the number and I was hearing the phone ringing in the background, in a different office. And so, I knew that, what the maintenance had told me was correct, that, oh, I think they might be out to lunch. And I was like, but I have an appointment. Say if it was at 3, I have an appointment at 3 p.m. It's like, oh, well, they don't get back from lunch till 3:30. And the person showed up maybe like 3 to 5 minutes before their lunch break would have been over. And I was there waiting. And so it worked out. It wasn't that long of a wait, but it was like, if I had been in a rush, it would have sucked. But it was a really cool apartment complex to view. It was really like, they have a lot of luxury ones. They have like smart appliances, washer dryers, and apartments. They're really cool to see. And it's like for $40 if it's near you. And then if the survey is really short, like 30 minutes, it's really not that big of a deal. And if it's easy to schedule, you do have to show your ID sometimes. So I usually go by my middle name, because my first, middle, and last name are on my ID. So I don't want to give them some weird name and then have them look at my ID and be like, who the heck are you? So I'll show my ID, and then it has my middle name. And so it's like, at least it's like, oh, maybe you're like one of those people who goes by your middle name. And so, like, that's not uncommon. Like, it's a little weird, but a lot of people, I have a lot of friends that go by their middle names. And so, or another name. And so I don't think it would be that uncommon. Like, I have a friend who I knew by her Chinese last name. Um, she had a first name that nobody called her, and then she gave an English name to this church. And so when I went to visit this church, they're like, oh, you're friends with, like, her name in English was Stephanie. They're like, you're friends with Stephanie. And I'm like, who? Like, I never knew her as Stephanie. Like, I knew her as her Chinese name, but it was her Chinese last name. So in China, she would actually go by her first name. In the US, in the professional setting, she would go by her uh first name. I mean, her last name. And then when she went um to church and stuff, she would use an English name. And so I really just didn't know. It wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of like, I guess, I've met a few people that go by a few names, especially people from like China and some other places where they have like a more English version of their name or whatever. It's fine. I mean, like, that's just how it is. But I mean, yeah, if you're trying not to blow your cover, you don't want to have some weird thing, where they're gonna be like, oh, like, why doesn't your name match? Like, that's gonna be weird. So it's like, at least I can be like, oh, like, uh, I go by Anne or whatever. Like, I mean, when I do that, I go by that, but because that's my middle name. But I don't use that name ever, for anything ever. So, um, yeah, it's just kind of funny, but so I can leave messages with that name or whatever, but then when they check my ID, the name is on there. It's part of my name, so it's not like a big deal. Nobody's ever asked me about it. And if they do, you can just tell them, like, whatever. Like, but it's kind of that's why I say it's a little bit controversial. There's a little bit of like bending the truth a little bit, but you're kind of quality assurance, to make sure that they're kind of doing their job and that they're following the rules. Basically, that's the whole point. And that the properties are kept well, and that basically they basically need to know that there's nothing you're doing that is that would potential there's nothing that the staff is doing that would potentially cause someone to not rent. Um, and so it's a good gig. I like it. Like, it's, $40 a pop, and you can sign up for 5 at once. At the very first day of the month, I thought it was the first of the month, but maybe I missed it this month because I logged on late. Last time I logged on at like midnight or like 5 a.m. or something. It was like a ridiculous early hour, so I got a lot of options. And then this time, when October hit, I think I missed the right amount of hours because when I logged on, there weren't really a lot right near me, or like there are $5 phone ones, but they get taken up so fast right when they're posted because basically you don't have to go anywhere and you just sit at home and call on the phone and then you fill out the survey, and they're $5 each and it has the same rules for the payments. So you could do like five of those and it's already $25, But again, you're not getting paid right away. There's also Uber Eats in my area. It's not as saturated as all the other places that are easy to make money with. So that is immediate money. You are spending money, just like with the mystery shopping. You're spending money on your gas. You're spending some time coming back to your computer. If you don't have like a free use of phone, I don't know, you're paying a little bit if you're calling the leasing agents and stuff, or at least you're using your phone. So it's like you do have to make the calls, you do have to get there, you do have to like finish the survey. Like there are steps. Uber Eats, there's also steps. It takes maybe about a week or so to fill out your stuff. But as long as everything's fine with like your license, your pictures, your registration, your car insurance, your car, as long as everything's like decent and passes and your background check. I think at most it took like a week for me to get everything done, and then I was ready to drive. And then every so often you have to update your background check, or you have to put your insurance update every month, and you have to take a picture about once a week. It feels like you have to take a new picture of yourself. And so, but it is immediate. Like once you start, you'll get the money. Uh, you get tips first, and then you'll get some of the money here and there. Like I've never figured out exactly what happens, but usually by the next day, you'll have the full amount from that day, and then the Prop 22 comes like every second week from whenever you started. And so all the Prop 22 counts in like whatever portion of mileage reimbursement plus whatever portion of hourly work that you did. And the hourly work counts as not the time you were logged on, but the time you were driving from uh, going to get an order or going to drop off an order. It doesn't count if I sat online for 45 minutes and didn't get any orders, which that didn't happen today, luckily. But I got an order for my driveway today, but it was only for like $9.99, and it wasn't that far. I had to pick something up like right near my house, like one light away, and then I drove it like maybe 3-4 miles. Got like a $4 tip, and I think it was like another $4 or $5. It was like nine something dollars. It said it was going to be for 22 minutes of work, and it was to deliver at like 11:07 a.m. So it's like it really wasn't a lot of work at all. I just picked something up and put it at someone's door and took a picture like it, and I did it at a time when there wasn't any traffic, so it really wasn't a big deal. Um so yeah, I'll talk about more. I'm gonna eat because my food's ready and I don't want it to burn, but I'll add some more. um I want people to be able to make money and feel secure. It's good to have gigs that work. I'm talking about things that I've tried, that I've tested, that I know work. Um, it's not, um, I'll talk about ones that I'm gonna test too. Um, it's not the only list, but there are so many lists out there, and I'm trying to explain realistically what it looks like. Like people like to post, you know, like make like $3,000 in one day. It's like, the way they do the math on that is like, oh, like if you calculate it over time after you've invested it for 5 years and it turns out to be $3,000 a day, it's like that's not exactly what people were clicking on. They thought they were going to find some delivery gig that's going to pay them or whatever. Like they're looking for exactly what it says. They're not looking for like some kind of clickbait. So I'm trying to just give some good reviews on here. Because I think money's an important topic. If you're queer or not queer, money's important. nowadays people are really struggling. I explained some of this. I'm starting to explain some of these gigs to people. And so I'm like, well, let me just talk about it on here, because whenever I start hearing about people saying like, oh, I need money, because everybody needs money, and when I see people that are posting up online like, hey, can you help me out? Like, I want to help them out, and I'm not saying I've seen anybody who's like taking advantage, but I think these are the kinds of things that, like, if you really think in advance, I know some people need money now, but it's like some of the stuff you can think in advance. I mean, if you can make $200 a month, that can be a credit card payment for some people. That can be your gas for a month, maybe, depending who you are or what you're doing. It could take care of a lot of bills. It could take care of a lot of situations. So I really gotta go. I can like smell my food from here, so it's probably burning. All right. I'll post more soon though about these topics.